resorted to militant methods for attainment of Swaraj. So ଏଇଠି ପିଲାମାନେ କହି ରଖୁଛି ଭାରତୀୟ ସ୍ୱାଧୀନତା ସଂଗ୍ରାମର ଅନ୍ୟତମ ପୁରୁଧା ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ସୁଭାଷ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ବୋଷ। ପିଲାମାନେ ତୁମେ ସମସ୍ତେ ସୁଭାଷ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ବୋଷଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ ଜାଣିଥିବ, ଯାହାଙ୍କର ଜୀବନୀ ଏବଂ ଇତିହାସ ଏବେ ମଧ୍ୟ ରହସ୍ୟମୟ ଅମୀମାଂସିତ ହୋଇ ରହିଛି। ସେ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ଭାରତୀୟ ସ୍ୱାଧୀନତା ସଂଗ୍ରାମର ମହାନ ଯୋଦ୍ଧା ଆଣ୍ଡ ଆଗଧାଡିର ନେତା। So whatever the role played by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi and other revolutionary leaders in the freedom movement, the role which was played by Subhash Chandra Bose and his Indian National Army played a vital role in the freedom movement in India. Subhash Chandra Bose was born on January 23, 1897 in Odia Bazar of Cuttack. He, particularly his family, settled at Cuttack in Odisha. His father's name was Janakinath Bose and mother name was Prabhavati Devi. Both father and mother helped a lot for the development of Subhash Chandra Bose in the field of education. Janakinath Bose or Subhash Chandra Bose's father came to Cuttack as a lawyer. In due course of time, Janakinath Bose made his name as an outstanding advocate. So, apart from advocacy, Janakinath Bose was a great social worker and a religious person. At the age of five, Subhash Bose took admission in Cuttack Missionary Primary School. During his study in his school, he realized the difference between the English and Indian students. In this early age, in his childhood, this type of treatment created in his mind a sense of hatred towards the foreign rule. ପିଲାମାନେ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ମୁଁ କହି ରଖିଲି କଣ ନା ଏଇ ଭାରତୀୟ ସ୍ୱାଧୀନତା ସଂଗ୍ରାମର ଅନ୍ୟତମ ପୁରୁଧା ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ସୁଭାଷ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ବୋଷ, ଯାହାଙ୍କର ଜୀବନୀ ଓ ଇତିହାସ ଏବେ ମଧ୍ୟ ରହସ୍ୟମୟ ଏବଂ ଅମୀମାଂସିତ ହୋଇ ରହିଅଛି। In the freedom movement, the role of Subhash Bose was very much outstanding, and his INA, which was organized by him, played a significant role in the freedom struggle. So, ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ପ୍ରଥମେ ତାଙ୍କର ସ୍କୁଲ ଏଜୁକେସନ ଆରମ୍ଭ କଲେ at the age of 5, 5 ବର୍ଷରେ କୋଉଠି ପଢିଲେ ନା କଟକ ମିଶନାରୀ ପ୍ରାଇମେରୀ ସ୍କୁଲରେ। ସେଇଠି ପ୍ରଥମେ ଦେଖିଦେଲେ ଦ ଟ୍ରିଟମେଣ୍ଟ, ଯୋଉ ବ୍ୟବହାର, ଯୋଉ ଇଂଲିଶ ଆଉ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ ମାନଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଯୋଉ ଇଂଲିଶ ଆଉ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ ଷ୍ଟୁଡେଣ୍ଟ ଭିତରେ ଯୋଉ ପାର୍ଥକ୍ୟ ସେଇଠି ସେ ବୁଝି ପାରିଥିଲେ ଏତେ ଛୋଟ ବେଳୁ। And after completing the education in primary school, he took admission in Ravenshaw Collegiate School. Here he experienced a different type of atmosphere, and Subhash Bose very much attracted towards the writings of Swami Vivekananda, and he read thoroughly the writings of Vivekananda, and he learned some lessons from Vivekananda's message and decided to follow it in his life. ଯେତେବେଳେ କଟକ ପ୍ରାଇମେରୀ ସ୍କୁଲରୁ ମିଶନାରୀ ପ୍ରାଇମେରୀ ସ୍କୁଲରୁ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଠ ସାରିକି ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ସମୟରେ ସେ ବଡ କ୍ଲାସକୁ ଗଲେ, କୋଉଠି ପଢିଲେ? ରେଭେନ୍ସା କଲେଜିଏଟ ସ୍କୁଲରେ। ସେଇଠି ସେ ପଢିଲା ବେଳେ ସେ ପ୍ରଥମେ ବେଶୀ ଆଟ୍ରାକ୍ଟ ହେଲେ ସ୍ୱାମୀ ବିବେକାନନ୍ଦ ଲେଖା ଉପରେ ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କ ଲେଖାକୁ ଏତେ ଅତିମାତ୍ରାରେ ସେ ପଢିଲେ ଏବଂ ପଢିକି ସେ ଡିସାଇଡ କଲେ ଯେ ତାଙ୍କରି ଯୋଉ ଜୀବନୀୟ ଆତ୍ମକାହାଣୀକୁ ତାଙ୍କ ଜୀବନୀରେ ସଦାବେଳେ ସେ ତାଙ୍କ ଜୀବନରେ ସଦାବେଳେ ଫଲୋ କରିବେ। ଏବଂ ସେ ଯୋଉ ସେ ଯୋଉ ଜନ୍ମ ହୋଇଥିଲେ ସୁଭାଷ ବୋଷ ତାଙ୍କର 14ଟି ଭାଇ ଭଉଣୀଙ୍କ ମଧ୍ୟରୁ ସେ ତାଙ୍କ ପିତାମାତାଙ୍କର 9ମ ସନ୍ତାନ ଥିଲେ। କିଏ? ସୁଭାଷ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ବୋଷ। And apart from this, he learned the service to man is the service to God. ସେ ଭାବିଥିଲେ ଯୋଉଟା ବିବେକାନନ୍ଦ କହିଥିଲେ ଯେ the service to man is the service to God. It was followed by later it was followed by Subhash Chandra Bose, and he was very much influenced that he formed a group of volunteers from among his classmates. With them he traveled from village to village and served the poor people. ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ରେଭେନ୍ସା କଲେଜିଏଟ ସ୍କୁଲରେ ପଢୁଥିଲେ ସେ ଗୋଟେ ଗ୍ରୁପ କଲେ ଏବଂ ସେ ଗ୍ରୁପରେ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାର ସାଙ୍ଗମାନଙ୍କୁ ଧରି ପୁଅର ପିପୁଲ ମାନଙ୍କୁ କେମିତି ସାହାଯ୍ୟ କରିବେ ସେ ଆଗେଇ ଆସିଥିଲେ। So his parents and relatives got worried as he might not do well in matriculation examination. But after the publication of result, it was found that he was secured third position in the entire university. ତେଣୁ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ସେ ବୁଲି ବୁଲି ଗୋଟେ ଗ୍ରୁପ କରି ତାଙ୍କ ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କୁ ଧରି ପୁଅର ପିପୁଲ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଯୋଉ ଗରିବ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ସାହାଯ୍ୟ କରୁଥିଲେ ସେଇଗୁଡିକ ଦେଖି ତାଙ୍କ ରିଲେଟିଭସ ମାନେ ତାଙ୍କ ସମ୍ପର୍କୀୟ ଏବଂ ବାପା ମା ଭାବିଲେ ସେ ଠିକ ସେ ପଢାପଢି କରୁନାହାନ୍ତି। କିନ୍ତୁ ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ସମୟରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ମାଟ୍ରିକର ରେଜଲ୍ଟ ବାହାରିଲା ସେତେବେଳେ ତାଙ୍କ ପରିବାର ଦେଖିଲେ ଯେ ସେ ଥାର୍ଡ ପୋଜିସନ ରଖିଛନ୍ତି ଇନ ଦ ଏଣ୍ଟାୟାର ୟୁନିଭର୍ସିଟିରେ ସେ ଥାର୍ଡ ପୋଜିସନ ରଖିଛନ୍ତି। ତେଣୁ later on after the completion of his schooling education, Subhash Chandra Bose took admission in the Presidency College, Calcutta in 1913. 1913 ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଦରେ ସୁଭାଷ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ବୋଷ ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ମାଟ୍ରିକୁଲେସନ ପରେ ପଢିବା ପାଇଁ ସେ ପ୍ରେସିଡେନ୍ସି କଲେଜରେ ଆଡମିସନ କଲେ। କାଲକାଟା ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରେସିଡେନ୍ସି କଲେଜ କୋଉଠି ଅବସ୍ଥିତ? କାଲକାଟା ଠାରେ। ପିଲାମାନେ ବୁଝିପାରୁଛ ତ? ଓକେ। ସୋ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ କାଲକାଟା ପ୍ରେସିଡେନ୍ସି କଲେଜରେ ଆଡମିସନ କଲେ he was then 16 years old, 16 ବର୍ଷ ତାଙ୍କୁ ହେଇଥିଲା। all the teachers were from England, ମାନେ ସେ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରେସିଡେନ୍ସି କଲେଜରେ ପଢୁଥିଲେ ସବୁ ଇଂଲଣ୍ଡ ଲୋକ, କେହି ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ ନଥିଲେ। ଏବଂ at that time after he completed his graduation in first class honors with distinction in philosophy, ସେ philosophy honors ନେଇକି ପଢୁଥିଲେ ଏବଂ ସେ 1919 ରେ ସେ first class ପାଇଲେ with distinction. Thereafter his father instructed him to go to London to appear Indian civil service examination. So after completion of the completion of graduation, his father instructed him to appear IS examination, and he instructed him to go to London. And in 1920 he secured the 4th position in the IS examination. But he wrote to his parents and elder brother Sarath Chandra Bose that he would not accept IS job. ସେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ତାଙ୍କର ଗ୍ରାଜୁଏସନ କରିଲା କୋଉଠୁ? ପ୍ରେସିଡେନ୍ସି କଲେଜ କାଲକାଟାରୁ 1913 ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଦରେ ସେ ତାଙ୍କ ବାପା ତାଙ୍କୁ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ସାଙ୍ଗେ କହିଥିଲେ ତୁମେ ଲଣ୍ଡନ କୁ ଯାଅ।
ସାର୍ କୋଉ ବ୍ଲକଟା ସେଟା ଚାଲିଛି?
କଣ କହିଲେ
ସାର୍? କୋଉ ବ୍ଲକଟା ସାର୍ ମୁଁ ଟିକେ ଜାଣି ପାରୁନି ସାର୍, 2 ଦିନ ଆବସେଣ୍ଟ ଥିଲି ତ। କୋଉ ବ୍ଲକ ଚାଲିଛି ସାର୍ ମୁଁ ଟିକେ?
ଏଇଟା ଆମର ମଡେଲ 2 ଭଲ୍ୟୁମ 2।
ହଁ, କୋଉ ବ୍ଲକ ସାର୍?
ଏଇଟା ବ୍ଲକ ହଉଛି ଆମର ୟୁନିଟ 22।
ଓକେ ସାର୍, ଓକେ।
ୟୁନିଟ 22 1 minute.
सैटेलाइट में कथा होता है
हाँ गोटे मिनट हाँ यूनिट 22
ओके
okay.
सर थैंक यू सर सर
So after he secured first class honors with distinction in philosophy, his father instructed him to go to London to appear Indian Civil Service examination, and he stood fourth position in the examination, but he would not accept Indian Civil Service job. Later on, he sent his resignation letter in 1921 to the then Secretary of State for India. At that time, when he came to know the role of Gandhiji in different aspects of the Indian national movement, he joined the non-cooperation movement which was led by Mahatma Gandhi. He entered active politics in April 91 at the age of 24. ଯେତେବେଳେ ସୁଭାଷ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ବୋଷକୁ 24 ବର୍ଷ ହେଇଥିଲା ସେ ମହାତ୍ମା ଗାନ୍ଧୀ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଡାକରା ଦେଇଥିଲେ ଅସହଯୋଗ ଆନ୍ଦୋଳନରେ ଯୋଗଦାନ ଦେଇଥିଲେ ସୁଭାଷ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ବୋଷ ମଧ୍ୟ ସେଠି ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ଯୋଗ ଦେଇଥିଲେ ସେହି ସମୟରେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ମାତ୍ର 24 ବର୍ଷ ହୋଇଥିଲା and he not only worked with Mahatma Gandhi, he also worked with Chittaranjan Das, and he was later on Subhash Chandra Bose was elected as mayor of Calcutta in 1923, but was arrested again on October 25th, 1924, and sent to Madle Jail, Burma. On health ground, he was released in 1926. However, he actively participated in the national movement which was led by the Indian National Congress. So, different aspects and different roles not only played by Mahatma Gandhi and other eminent Indian leaders for the in the Indian national movement, but Subhash Chandra Bose also played an important part in the national movement. He also participated in the civil disobedience movement of 1930. He again criticized Gandhiji when he withdrew this agitation in 1933. Both non-cooperation movement and in civil disobedience movement, Subhash Chandra Bose participated considerably participated in these two movements, but he was very much disgusted and dissatisfied with the call of Gandhiji withdrawn of these two movements. Subhash Chandra Bose laid stress on national planning, unity and organization of masses for the national struggle. So, after these movements which was led by Mahatma Gandhi, later on a differences created between Mahatma Gandhi and Subhash Chandra Bose. And when the political situation after the outbreak of the Second World War widened, the gap between Subhash Chandra Bose and Gandhiji developed. Subhash wanted to start a mass movement. Subhash wanted to start a mass movement against the British, as he thought this was the right time to strike against the enemy. And Gandhi, on the other hand, felt it was immoral to do anything against the British Indian society. So, Subhash Chandra Bose favored policy of large-scale industrialization, whereas Gandhiji was opposed to this. Subhash Chandra Bose wanted to develop the industrial production in India, but Mahatma Gandhi was opposed to this. As Britain started facing difficulties, in Europe because of the German threat, Gandhiji wanted to adopt a compromising attitude, while Subhash Chandra Bose wanted to take advantage of these difficulties faced by the British. So some not only Mahatma Gandhi's ideas was favored by different Indian leaders at this particular time. Subhash Chandra Bose was not interested to follow the ideas of Mahatma Gandhi. He immediately, after his conflict with Mahatma Gandhi, he immediately laid the foundation of a radical party which was known as Forward Bloc. And Forward Bloc immediate objective was liberation of India with the support of workers, peasants, youth, and all radical organizations. And not only Subhash Chandra Bose developed the concept of Forward Bloc, but in July 1940, Subhash Chandra Bose was also arrested under the defense of Indian rule. Indian rules ku se defense करु तांकु arrest करा जायतला July 1940 रे. After that he board a train for Peshawar. से Peshawar को पळेथिले and reached Kabul. Subhash then traveled from Peshawar to Kabul, then traveled to Moscow on the passport of an Italian nobleman, Count Orlando Masto. From Moscow, he reached Rome, and from there he traveled to Germany. The Indian community in Germany welcomed him as their leader, Netaji, and greeted him with Joy Hind. So, different ମୁଁ ଏଇଟା କାହିଁ ପଢଉଛି ସୁଭାଷ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ବୋଷର ବି ନ୍ୟାସନାଲ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟର କିଛି ରହିଛି ରୋଲ. ତାପରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ନ୍ୟାସନାଲ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟରେ ତୁମମାନଙ୍କର ଓମେନ୍ ମାନେ ମଧ୍ୟ ପାର୍ଟିସିପେଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ପିଜାନ୍ସ ମାନେ ମଧ୍ୟ ପାର୍ଟିସିପେଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡଲର୍ଡ ଜମିନଦାର ମାନେ ମଧ୍ୟ ପାର୍ଟିସିପେଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି. ତେଣୁ ଏଇ ଯୋଉମାନେ ପାର୍ଟିସିପେଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ ଜାଣିବା ପୂର୍ବରୁ ସୁଭାଷ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ବୋଷଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ ଜାଣିବା ନିହାତି ଆବଶ୍ୟକ. ତେଣୁ ଆପାର୍ଟ ଫ୍ରମ many other important leaders of Indian National Congress who played an important part in national freedom movement, Subhash Chandra Bose also played a part in the freedom movement. So after he moved to different paths, then Subhash Chandra Bose founded INA, Indian National Army, and Indian National Army was founded in the year 1942. It was mainly due to Rasabihari Bose's efforts that a conference was held at Tokyo from 28 to 38 March 1942. The main objective was to expand aid, strengthens the Indian Independence League, and to form under the overall command of the League an Indian National Army. So a conference, namely Bangkok Conference, was held from June 15 to June 23. More than 150 delegates from Singapore, Burma, Thailand, Hong Kong, Java were participated at that conference, and in that conference a resolution was passed regarding the invitation to Subhash Chandra Bose to come from Europe to lead this movement. This conference marked the signal point in the Indian National Army history. This the second phase of the Indian National Army began when Subhash Chandra Bose arrived at Singapore on July 1943. 2 days later, 2 days later, he officially took charge of Indian Independence League on August 1943. On August 1943, he took the charge of Indian National Army and became its supreme commander. किए सुभाष चंद्र बोस 1943 रे से चार्ज नेले कहार इंडियन नेशनल आर्मी रो and he became the commander of this Indian National Army and army, and he set up Indian National Army headquarters at Rangau and in Singapore and began to reorganize Indian National Army. So, on October 21, 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose set up the interim government and he took oath in the name of God that he will fight for independence till last drop of his blood. He gave the popular slogan, Delhi Chalo. He set up recruitment and training department as well. His battle cry was, give me blood and I shall give you freedom. So, different aspects were going on, and thereafter he started his military campaign, and his interim government was recognized by Japan, Germany, Burma, Korea, Ireland, China, Italy, etc. Subhash Chandra Bose again renamed Andaman as Shahid Deep and Nicobar as Swaraj Deep. And Indian National Army, along with Japanese Army, overran any territories in Southeast Asia. In 1944, led by Captain Shah Nawaz Khan, Indian National Army soldiers advanced up to the very frontier of India. But some of the INA, Indian National Army figures or heroes, their famous trial began at Red Fort in 1945. The trial of Prem Kumar Sehgal, Captain Shah Nawaz Khan and Gurbakh Singh Dhillon became national issue. People of India in general and Congress leaders in particular showed sympathy with them. They were accused of having become traitors, while the people welcomed them as national heroes. The nationalist lawyer defended their case. Bhulabhai Desai led the team of lawyers, which also had lawyers like Jawaharlal Nehru, Aruna Asaf Ali, and Tej Bahadur Sapru. Though the IN failed in its political mission, but it set an inspiring example of patriotism. And significance of Indian National Army. To sum up, the significance of Indian National Army lies some important following facts. Number one, the Indians were capable of fighting a war against imperialist forces for their independence. Number two, despite all efforts of divide and rule by the British, the Hindus, Muslims, and the Sikhs fought together for the freedom of their motherland. Number three, the Indian women were also capable of fighting in the army. INA popularized Jana Gana Mana and Jai Hind. The heroic deeds and sacrifices of the soldiers of INA led to political consciousness or national consciousness among the Indian forces. the British now realized that they could not use force to continue their rule in India. And the Indian National Army played an important role in British's final decision to quit India. So Subhash Chandra Bose and his Indian National Army, Subhash Chandra Bose and his Indian National Army set a brilliant example of bravery, sacrifice, dedication, honesty and love for motherland was their symbol, and her liberation was their aim in life. The INA inspired uprisings in the armed forces of India. The Indian naval ratings in Mumbai rose in revolt in 1946. So, the role of Subhash Chandra Bose in the freedom movement was outstanding, and apart from the great leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, Jawaharlal Nehru, and other eminent dignitaries, also latter part, the women, the Dalits, peasants, laborer groups also played an important role in the Indian freedom struggle. As far as the women was concerned, the position of women in Indian society differed period to period and age to age. जोटा फिरोज बाबू पचारथिले को यूनिट आमे सेटा को एडजस्ट करिकी आस्ते आस्ते सेही जो नेशनल मूवमेंट रो फिरोज बाबू जानि पाले तो
सर सर
से जो कांसेप्ट सुभाष चंद्र बोस को नेई की आमे आगु को बढ़िया कारण आमे सेही पार्टा को छाड़ीबानी तेनु सेहीटा को करिकी आमे आगु को जाउते तुमरो एटा वॉल्यूम 2 रे अछि गोटे पार्ट रे तेनु तमर से पिजेंट्री हो बा वर्किंग क्लास हो कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास हो समस्त मध्य योगदान देथिले जेतेले मु क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट पढैथिली से समय रे गोटे रिवोल्यूशनरी एक्टिविटीज मध्य जाइथिली तेनु वुमेन माने मध्य पार्टिसिपेट करथिले ए फ्रीडम मूवमेंट रे आमे जानिचे जे द पोजीशन ऑफ वुमेन इन इंडियन सोसाइटी डिफर्ड पीरियड टू पीरियड एंड एज टू एज बट take an example, in Rig Vedic period, the position of women high, but in latter Vedic period, their position became low. But when the British came to India and they became ruler of the country, the Britishers passed some of the social legislation like prohibition of female infanticide, sati, slavery, and also passed the Youth Remarriage Act. But these acts ruffled the country and the British faced the uprising in 1857 in the movement Sipahi Mutiny. And different aspects, women not only played an important part, but also they played an important role in the freedom movement, like the call of Mahatma Gandhi was very much influenced to women, and they came forward and played a leading role in the freedom movement. The women like Dr. Annie Besant, Neil Sengupta, Margaret Cousins, who worked in India for country's freedom and its socio-economic development. Apart from the achievement of political independence, the women also followed the concept and methods of Mahatma Gandhi's non-violence and truth, and reference have already been cited related to the works of Dr. Annie Besant, Madam Kama, Bina Das, Kalpana Dutt, Sarojini Naidu, Neil Sengupta, Indira Gandhi, etc. They played important part. And however, apart from these names, but the sacrifices of Rajkumari Ambedkar, Kaustubha Gandhi, Vijayalakshmi Pandit, Sucheta Kripalani, Lilavati Munshi, Sister Nivedita, Sarada Devi, Kamala Das Gupta, Durgabai Deshmukh, Basanti Das, Rama Devi, Malati Devi, Shanti Das, Hema Prabha, Meera Ben, Sarda Ben, Aruna Asif Ali, Ben Satyavati Devi, Lakshmi Menon, Leela Rai, Pandit Rama Bai, Pandita Rama Bai, etc. They played an important part in the national movement, and they are worth remembering. And under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, the national movement became a mass movement since 1920. 1920 कौन ହେଇଥିଲା 1920 ରେ?
Non-cooperation.
Very good. Under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, the national movement became a mass movement since 1920. The participation of women in the national movement made a steady progress from the non-cooperation movement to the Quit India movement in 1942. तामाने 1920 रे non-cooperation movement, 1930 रे civil disobedience movement, 1942 रे Quit India movement. In these three movements, the participation of women was worth remembering. ତେଣୁ ଏମାନେ ସବୁ ତିନିଟା ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ ରେ ସେମାନେ ଜଏନ୍ କରିଥିଲେ. During these mass movements, the women shouldered the responsibility with running their homes to contribute to the might of freedom struggle as they marched on the streets, shouted slogan, picketed shops of foreign goods and liquor, faced police lathi charge and bullets. ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ତିନୋଟି ଫ୍ରିଡମ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ ଜାତୀୟ ଆନ୍ଦୋଳନରେ ଯୋଉ ଓମେନ ମାନେ ଯୋଗ ଦେଇଥିଲେ ସେଠି ଆମର ପାର୍ଟିସିପେଟ କରିଥିଲେ. ସେଠି ଖାଲି ସେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଜୀଙ୍କ କଲରେ ସେମାନେ ଯୋଗଦାନ ଦେବା ସହିତ ସେମାନେ ଘରର କାମ କରିକି ମଧ୍ୟ ସେମାନେ ମାନେ ଯାଉଥିଲେ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରିଟରେ ସ୍ଲୋଗାନ ଦେଇକି ରାସ୍ତାରେ ସ୍ଲୋଗାନ ଦେଇକି ଯାଉଥିଲେ ଭାରତ ମାତା କି ଜୟ, ବନ୍ଦେ ମାତରମ୍, ଜୟ ହିନ୍ଦ ଏଗୁଡିକ ସବୁ କହି ଯାଉଥିଲେ. ଏବଂ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସଲ୍ଟ ଆକ୍ଟ କୁ ଯାଇଥିଲେ ସାବରମତୀ ଆଶ୍ରମରୁ ଯାଇଥିଲେ ଦାଣ୍ଡି ଯାତ୍ରା କରିଥିଲେ ସେତେବେଳେ ମଧ୍ୟ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଓମେନ ମାନେ ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ସହିତ ଯାଇକି ତାଙ୍କ ଆନ୍ଦୋଳନରେ ସମକକ୍ଷ ମଧ୍ୟ ହୋଇଥିଲେ. ତେଣୁ the national movement was the first forum where the women participated in public life to acquire rights and position either to deny to them. It was Mahatma Gandhi who tapped the potential of women as political agitators and partners in the process of building up a nation. The national movement acted in liberating women in drastic way than the past social reforms. So different ladies were, different women were participated in Gandhian movements, particularly Sarala Devi, Muthulakshmi Reddy and Amrit Kaur followed Gandhi in the movement. Later on, Sarojini Raudu, Gosiben Naroji, Avantika Bai Gokhale were attached to Rashtriya Stree Sangha. ସେମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଓମେନ ମାନଙ୍କର ଗୋଟେ ରାଷ୍ଟ୍ରୀୟ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ସଂଘ ମଧ୍ୟ ହୋଇଥିଲା ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ସମୟରେ. ସେ କିଏ କରିଥିଲେ ନା with the initiation of Sarojini Naidu, Gosiben Naroji and Avanti Kabi Gokhale, they were attached to Rashtriya Stree Sangha. In the meanwhile, Urmila Devi, Shanti Das, Bimal Pratibha Devi in Bengaluru, ତିନି ଜଣ କିଏ କିଏ? Urmila Devi, Shanti Das, Bimal Pratibha Devi and Srimati S. Ambujamal, Krishnabai Rao from South were ahead in the movement. Due to this participation of women, there started changes taking place in the society and administration. The first major change was a legislation passed in 1937, the Hindu Women's Property Act. It applied uniformly to all the Hindus. So, since the ancient period, Indian society had been under outdated system, traditions and superstitions. The last section which suffered a lot was the women in the society. The last section which suffered a lot was the women in the society. It is clear that many of the social reformers took lot of effort for the upliftment of Indian society. Mahatma Phule had done pioneering work towards the social reform movement in India during the second half of the 19th century. Most of the social reformers worked towards the emancipation of women, and because of their efforts, many important issues were addressed and solved by them. And who are the social reformers who played an important role for the emancipation of women? Answer me. पिलाने आंसर कहल को सोशल रिफॉर्मर्स माने आगे आसले 19th सेंचुरी वोमेन मानकर डेवलपमेंट पे
स्वामी दयानंद सरस्वती,
हाँ राजा राममोहन राय,
राजा राममोहन
हाँ,
महादेव गोविंद रानाडे,
हाँ वेरी गुड। सेमाने मध्य प्रथमे राजा राममोहन राय, देन स्वामी दयानंद सरस्वती, देन आसिले किए रामकृष्ण परमहंस, विवेकानंद, तापरे एटा होची माने कोन हिंदू मुस्लिम मानक पे मध्य माने अन्य लोक माने जेमति कि सर सईद अहमद खान, other dignitaries, they also played important part for the emancipation of women. Women माने खाली ए जो सिविल डिसोबीडियंस मूवमेंट हो बा क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट हो बा नॉन कोऑपरेशन मूवमेंट हो, से माने खाली जॉइन कर नथले, से माने गांधी जी को स्पीच रे इंस्पायर हे से माने मध्य ये करथिले। मु जो कहली से माने ताकर निज ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मध्य करथिले, राष्ट्रीय स्त्री संघ, महिला समितिज, different women's association were formed to look after different aspects of the Indian national movement. And in the light of Swadeshi agitation, in the light of the Swadeshi agitation, women associations like Mahila Shilpa Samiti and the Lakshmi Bhandar were set up by the cousins of Rabindranath Tagore. Even if the women's participation also played a vital role in the Indian national movement, and women's associations like the Mahila Shilpa Samiti, Lakshmi Bhandar were set up by the cousins of Rabindranath Tagore, Hiranyamoyi Devi and Sarala Devi. The Hito Sini Sabha, a women's group organized an exhibition of Swadeshi goods. गोटे ग्रुप्स वोमेन्स ग्रुप्स थिला जो स्वदेशी गुड्स गुडा को से माने देखैथिले 1907 रे। एंड कमला देवी चट्टोपाध्याय, अदर डिग्निटारीज लाइक हर मदर गिरिजाबाई सेट अप ए महिला सभा, गोटे महिला सभा मध्य क्रिएट हेतिला। एंड रामेश्वरी नेहरू, the wife of a cousin of Jawaharlal Nehru, was also created a similar organization in Allahabad. ये जो महिला सभा मध्य आउ जने करथिले ताका ना होची रामेश्वरी नेहरू, जे की wife of a cousin of Jawaharlal Nehru. So apart from other aspects, the Indian women contributed a lot towards the development of Indian society, and many of them were greatly influenced by Mahatma Gandhi and happily underwent all types of sufferings and repressive measures. It is evidently clear that Indian women did not lag behind, and it has been a great contribution of Gandhiji that he, through his different programs and clarion calls, brought about socio-economic uplift of the Indian women no mean an achievement. So women also played an important part in the national movement. Apart from the role of women, Dalits also played an important part in the national movement. And at first, who are the Dalits? The Dalit କାହାକୁ କୁହାଯାଏ? ପିଲାମାନେ ଦଳିତ କହିଲେ କଣ ବୁଝ? ଦଳିତ
underprivileged.
yes, underprivileged. ଏଇଟା ଆମେ ବ୍ଲକ 7 ପଢଉଛେ, ବୁଝିପାରିଲେ ତ? ବ୍ଲକ 7 ଆମର ଯୋଉଟା ଅଛି national movement and social groups 2, national movement and women, national movement and Dalit. ଆମେ towards freedom ଯାଉଛେ, ତେଣୁ ଏଇଠି ଆମେ ଦଳିତ ମାନଙ୍କର ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାନ୍ସ, ତାଙ୍କର କଣ ଥିଲା ନ୍ୟାସନାଲ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟରେ, ସେଇଟା ପଢିବା। ବୁଝିପାରୁଛ ତ ପିଲାମାନେ?
Yes, sir.
So the advent of the British was welcomed by the liberals of higher caste educated people for its liberalism and system of education. The orthodox forces opposed the British out of fear that the British culture, language and liberalism might corrupt the Indian customs and traditions. Particularly ଯେତେବେଳେ ବ୍ରିଟିଶ ମାନଙ୍କ ଆଗମନ ହେଲା, ସେମାନେ ହାୟର କାଷ୍ଟ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ନିଜ ସର୍ଭିସ ରେ ହଉ ବା ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାର ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ କାମରେ ସେ ହାୟର ପୋଷ୍ଟରେ ରଖିଲେ, କିନ୍ତୁ ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ସମୟରେ ସେମାନେ ଭାବିଲେ ଯେ ଯୋଉ ବ୍ରିଟିଶର୍ସ ମାନେ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ କଷ୍ଟମ ଆଉ ଟ୍ରାଡିସନ କୁ ଭାଙ୍ଗିଦେବେ ବୋଲି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଏଗୁଡିକ ସେମାନେ କରିପାରିଲେନି। କିନ୍ତୁ ସେଇ ସମୟରେ ସୋସାଇଟିରେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିଛେ କାଷ୍ଟ ସିଷ୍ଟମ ର ଅଲରେଡି ଡେଭଲପ ହେଇସାରିଥିଲା କୋଉ ପିରିୟଡ, ଡ୍ୟୁରିଂ ଦ ଲାଟର ବେଦିକ ପିରିୟଡ। ସୋ at first on the contrary, the lower classes such as the Dalits, the tribals and the peasants were more ruthlessly exploited by the British system of administration, which was exploitative in nature. The public organizations seem to neglect the prime issues of these oppressed classes. Number of social reformers worked for the upliftment of marginalized section of the society. They made significant changes in the lives of the subaltern classes. The main objective of the Dalit movement was to establish a society based on the principle of social equality. Mahatma Jyotirao Phule was the first social reformer who started the Dalit movement. ତେଣୁ ଏ ଯୋଉ Dalit movement କିଏ started କଲେ? Mahatma Jyotirao Phule was the first social reformer who started the Dalit movement in India during the 19th century. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar gave a revolutionary character to Dalit movement and prepared the Dalits to launch an agitation for securing their social, religious and political rights. He waged a war against the inhuman practice of Hindu religion, emancipated the lowest strata of this society. He was mainly responsible for the overall development of Indian society in general and Dalits in particular. So Mahatma Jyotirao Phule and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar gave a revolutionary character to Dalit movement. And now we have to know who are the Dalits. The word Dalit means suppressed, crushed or broken to pieces. It is inclusive of all the oppressed and exploited section of the society. Dalits are a mixed population of numerous caste groups and speak various languages. There are many different names proposed from defining this group of people like Panchamaj, Fifth Varna, Asupusya, etc. Dalits are traditionally regarded as untouchables. ସେମାନେ ଅଛୁଆଁ ଭେଦଭାବ ଯୋଉ ଚାଲିଥିଲା. Etymologically, the term is inclusive of meanings such as downtrodden, disadvantaged group, underprivileged group, dispossessed group, deprived group, handicapped group, abused group, and humble, etc. During the British period, they were known as depressed classes. During the British period, the Dalits were known as depressed classes. And the term scheduled caste, the term SC, was first used by the British in the Government of India Act 1935. In the year 1935, the Government of India Act was passed, and the term scheduled caste was first used by the British in the Government of India Act. And the Constitution of India recognized them as scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Mahatma Gandhi used the name Harijan to define untouchables, but it was opposed and banned by Government of India after independence. Dr. Ambedkar chose the term broken man as English translation of Dalit to refer to the original ancestors of the untouchables. So generally, the term Dalit includes what is called in administrative parlances scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and other backward castes. Nowadays, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, other backward castes. Caste is an important element in India. It is still the foundation of Indian society. And the different periods, like Dalit movement, can be divided into two main periods: pre-Ambedkar period and Dr. Ambedkar period. In pre-Ambedkar Dalit movement period, Mahatma Jyotirao Phule, he played an important part. Then another person, Gopalabha Bhalankar, Kishan Phagu Bansode, Shivram Janba Kamle, Maharshi Vittal Ramji Sindhe. So Dalit movement, as I have mentioned you, that it can be divided into two main periods. दुईटा पीरियड आम विभक्त करुचे दलित मूवमेंट को. प्रथम हूँ प्री आंबेडकर दलित मूवमेंट माने आंबेडकर पूर्वर, देन डॉक्टर आंबेडकर पीरियड. तेणु आंबेडकर पूर्वर जो पीरियड रे सब दलित मूवमेंट करथिले सेमाने हेले महात्मा ज्योतिराव फुले, गोपाल बाबा भालगंकर, किसान फगु बांसोडे, शिवराम जनबा कामले, महर्षि भित्तल रामजी सिंधे, नारायण गुरु, राजश्री छत्रपति साहू महाराज. These are the important persons who played an important part in pre-Ambedkar Dalit movement. Then Dr. Ambedkar and Dalit movement. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, affectionately known as Baba Saheb Ambedkar, was one of the most illustrious sons of India. He was a great scholar who made outstanding contribution as an economist, socialist, educationalist, journalist, and above all, as a social reformer and champion of human rights. He appeared on the Indian social political scene in early 1920s and remained in the forefront of all social, economic, political, and religious efforts for upliftment of the lowest stratum of the Indian society, known as Dalit. So, he played a different role for the development of these Dalits, and different social movements also adopted by B.R. Ambedkar. At first, he started his social activity and his movement for the upliftment of Dalits by submitting memorandum before the South Borough Commission in 1917, in which he asked number of political social lives for the Dalits. British government declared that it will form responsible government in India 1917, and he wrote a memorandum to the British government, and five important resolutions were made. Number one, untouchables should be given right to vote. माने scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBC ସେମାନେ vote ଦେଇପାରିବେ. Number two, they should given right to contest the election. Election ने ମଧ୍ୟ ଭାଗ ନେଇପାରିବେ. There should be separate electorate reserved for them. The representatives of untouchables must be elected by the untouchable voters. Number five, in an untouchable dominant constituency, they should be given reserved seats as per their population. So, apart from these five resolutions, Dr. Ambedkar also demanded civil rights for untouchables before South Borough Commission, and it was the first organized effort in modern India to start civil rights movement of Dalits. And different newspapers also published by Dr. Ambedkar, and in 1920 he began the publication of the week Mukko Nayaka, leader of the dump, in Mumbai with the help of Chhatrapati Sahu Maharaj of Kolhapur. And he not only played, and apart from the role played by B.R. Ambedkar, Mahad Chabdar Lake Satyagraha, burning of Manusmriti, the Manusmriti, Ambedkar held that Manusmriti as responsible for the social inequality and oppressive condition of the Dalits. In order to liberate the Dalits from the age-old slavery, caste-ridden Hindu society, he decided to burn Manusmriti, which was the symbol of injustice. So, these are the most important role played by Ambedkar for the upliftment of Dalits, and the part also played by other leaders in Dalit movement was worth remembering. And Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was also regarded as an architect of the Indian Constitution. The most important thing for which Dr. Ambedkar is known all throughout India is that he was an architect of the Indian Constitution. So, these are the concepts and different roles not only played by the women and Dalits in the freedom movement, they also left a legacy for their achievements. After the Dalits, women, the peasants, tribal peasants also played an important role, particularly Deccan riots of 1875 re ଗୋଟେ Deccan riots ହୋଇଥିଲା. During this period, the peasants in Western India had faced number of problems, and the majority of poor people were burnt due to the heavy debt. So government and the money lenders used to exploit the poor peasants. That resulted the outbreak of violence, different violences, and the first outbreak of violence occurred at Suppa in Pune, where the houses of the money lenders were attacked by the people. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଏ ଯୋଉ ପିଜାନ୍ସ ମାନେ କୃଷକ ମାନେ କାହିଁକି ସେମାନେ ଆରମ୍ଭ କଲେ, କାରଣ ଯୋଉ ମନି ଲେଣ୍ଡର୍ସ ମାନେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଦେଇଥିଲେ ଜମି, ସେତେ ଚାଷ କଲେ, ଚାଷ କରିକି ତାଙ୍କ ଯୋଉ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ଯୋଉ ଦଉଥିଲେ, ସେମାନଙ୍କ ମନ ଇଚ୍ଛା ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ନଉଥିଲେ, ତେଣୁ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ସେମାନେ ଆରମ୍ଭ କଲେ କଣ ପିଜାନ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ। ତେଣୁ ସେଇଠି ଫାଷ୍ଟ ଯୋଉ ଭାଉଲେନ୍ସ ହେଇଥିଲା ଅକର ହେଇଥିଲା ସୁପା ଇନ୍ ପୁନେ। ସେଠି କଣ କରିଥିଲେ ନା से मनी लेंडर्स को हाउस को पोड़ी देइथिले एबे भी से कृषक मानकर आंदोलन चली अछि 21st सेंचुरी मध्य तेणु विभिन्न ट्राइब्स माने आसीगले कोली ट्राइब्स होयना ट्राइब्स different tribes are came forward and participated in Bijan movement, and by studying all the facts, the British government passed the Deccan Agricultural Relief Act of 1879 to provide financial relief to the Bijan. And in Bijan movement, different personalities also played an important role, particularly your Mahatma Jyotirao Phule, Vittal Ramji Sindhe, Sane Guruji, Senapati Bapat, Mulsi Satyagraha, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and Indian National Congress also played an important part for the Bijan movement. And these Indian tribes particularly revolted against the Britishers soon after the establishment of their authority over India. So the Dalit and other Pijans also played also led their movement against the British colonial policy. Different tribes, the Colis, the Bhils, the Bhil uprising, the Colis uprising, and the Gadkari uprising, Gond uprising, or tribal movement also occurred in Bengal, etc., which challenged the British supremacy. And these activities, these Pijan movement activities spread discontent among the soldiers and common people against the British. And the tribal movement in northwestern Bengal also considered as an important struggle of a modern period. Tribal leader Jittu Santal began this movement in Malda area of Bengal, which was against the landlord. From the above discussion, it is clear that the Pijans gave stiff resistance to the unjust and human policies of the British government and money lenders. So it is clear that the tribals gave and the tribals failed to overthrow the British rule. They inspired the other fellow citizens to unite and to oppose the British policies. The freedom fighters and the leaders of Indian national movement appreciated the efforts of Ramsis, Bhils, and Colis. Due to their support and participation in Indian freedom struggle, India got independence in 1947. बुझिपाल पिलाने पिलाने बुझिपाल तो
सर
So next class we will discuss the last unit, unit 34, the making of Indian Constitution. Okay? Indian Constitution. Okay.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good night, sir.
सर काली के पीडी पठेबे
हाँ पठे
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
थैंक यू सर गुड नाइट सर
Thank you.
थैंक यू सर
Good
गुड
night,
नाइट
sir.
सर